Hi, I'm Francie Heinrichsen, founder of Founding Females, and today I'm teaming up with Amy. She's the founder of the company This Little Light Breathwork. Amy, thanks for taking time to share your story and this time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Francie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Every once in a while in my work, I come across a business concept model that's just totally unique. It's completely different from anything that I have ever come across. And so, because of that, and because I've actually tried your services, I wanted to talk with you about the work and the transformation that you do. I know that we've all gone through something really hard,
Mhm.
and so I wanted to open up the conversation about this concept of breath work, what you do, and how it actually benefits the people that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's dive in. I learned from you
Mhm.
that breathwork has actually been around for a really long time. It's a new concept to me,
Mhm.
and I've only begun to realize the health benefits of breathwork.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if you could share with us what breathwork is. What does this actually look like?
Yeah. So it's a wide open question, right? Because, like you said, breathwork actually has been around for a very long time. Whether you are a believer, you can go back to biblical days, or you can take it way back when, if you're not a believer, to more of the ancient times. So, for quite a while. But I think what is happening now is our society desperately needs this type of modality. And so I think the popularity has taken off in the last probably couple of years. The term breath work is simply, using your body to do the breathing. But there's way more that goes along with that. So the type of breath work that I actually offer that's different from potentially like yoga modality or other types of breath work is called conscious connected breathing, which like you've experienced. So that type of breath work is amazing because it allows you to go deeper into the breath and in a more cyclical pattern. So you're always in control of your depth and your pace. But what you're doing is you're allowing that constant flow of the oxygen and CO2 to shift within your body. So, like you mentioned, there's physical aspects that you're actually changing, and there's also emotional aspects as well. So, that's the type that I offer. The term breath work, if you Google it, you might get a wide variety of things. But so yeah, that question is so broad that sometimes it's hard to answer. But that's the type that I offer. And I offer it because I feel like after about 8 or 10 minutes of doing that cyclical breathing, that's when your body really makes the internal changes and you can really see long-term systemic results compared to maybe other breathwork types.
Awesome. Do you mind if I take a moment to describe what walking into a session was like? So
Yeah,
somebody who's
absolutely.
never even heard the word breath work
Mhm.
can begin to visualize what a session might be like. So
Yeah.
my friend, our friend, Katie Vandenberg at her art space
Yep.
in Morton hosted one of Amy's sessions. And so when I walked in, it was in this somewhat smaller space,
Mhm.
could be like, somebody could imagine a yoga studio. And you asked us to bring a yoga mat and a blanket. And
Right.
so when I came in, I took my seat on the floor. We laid on the floor on our yoga mats,
Mhm.
and the lights were dim. It was very serene. So somebody might be able to compare it to a yoga
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
You had some really beautiful lights around the edge so we could see clearly, but it was a calm space,
Mhm.
and there was calm music playing. I did your winter session, so there was some really neat Christmas music, or I guess holiday music, themed, that I had never heard before. It was just relaxing. Katie gave me some tea. I sat down and took my seat and put the blanket over me, and so you're you know this was the scene, and it was just such a great way to lead into this guide of breathing that
Mhm.
you showed us.
Thank you. Yeah.
How did you start your business?
Again, another loaded question. So this goes back about 10 years, and I always need to kind of condense it. So basically, for around, it started probably 2012, but definitely 2013 was the heat of it. So I started to lose some family members on my mom's side through cancer very rapidly.
Mm.
My sister also got cancer. So that happened. So that enough was like three, right? In like a year. And then the big one was I lost my best friend through suicide in 2013, very publicly. So not a whole lot of words to really put that into perspective. It changed my life. Shortly after that, literally less than a year later, I lost a loved one to gun violence. And
Mm.
so you can imagine my nervous system was completely off the charts. And so I also had a really good job. I didn't want to quit, didn't really want to ruin that. And I had to just basically press on. And so I would get up early, travel every day for the job, come back home, or sometimes be in hotels. And the emotions would flood out right at night. But after a while, I found myself just in this ball of state where my nervous system was more on the very sympathetic. I was just very tightly wound, super, um, what's the word? Just like constantly on the go, not able to relax. But that was also my norm. So I could function in that. But then about 5 years later of doing that day in and day out, my body just finally said, okay, you've got to do something. So I took a break and started to work from home. When I did that, obviously my grief was 5 years into it. And so I felt like I was in a better place to start to use my nursing background to dig deeper into mental health. So with that, I worked in addiction and recovery for about a year or so, kind of got an idea of what that looked like for the people that struggle with that. I then, in the heart of the pandemic, moved over to our local VA, working one-on-one with our veterans. Through the pandemic, a lot of suicidal ideation, a lot of crises, things like that. Um, Prior to that, I worked in a crisis center via the telephone for 3 years
Mm.
on a weekly basis. So I was taking calls from the community members, really getting to see what people are struggling with. And so kind of just was, really immersed in the mental health aspect and also realizing both from my personal aspect with my friend's story and just all the other stories that I've heard is that we do some good in the mental health space, right, nationwide, but we have a huge gap where we are just not connecting the dots when it comes to full body. And so I knew as I was in the heart of that, that the traditional system wasn't really my thing. I felt like we were failing and we weren't doing more. So I knew I wanted to get more holistic. I just wasn't sure why. I had a conversation with a mutual nurse friend, and she suggested this thing. And typically I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it. But I did. And when they say that you just have that gut reaction, you just know it's a good thing. I signed up. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a 6 month long program, very intense. So not only did I learn breath work and I had to kind of model that on a daily basis, I I was able to embody that. So I learned what safety felt like in my own nervous system and all the benefits that came first personally. Then the training came later. So I really feel like overall it was a very good, intense 6 months. And words can't describe the healing that happened with that. Physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the above. So I knew then what happened to me, I had to share it with other people. So I started this little light breath work probably close to 2 years, I would say. Again, just kind of growing it by word of mouth, trying to grow within the central Illinois area and going from there. So.
Wow. That is a story of triumph. And I love how you touched on your instinct because as women and women business owners, we have really strong instincts. And sometimes
Mhm.
we can't always put that into words, but you follow that feeling and now you're creating transformation for other people, which is very powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
What services do you offer?
So I offer the continual conscious connected breathwork. That's like the main service. I will be doing another service soon that is a little bit different. It's called Safe and Sound Protocol. So from what I understand, it's maybe a little on the I'm not sure where to start side. So that's an option coming up in the next month or so. And those services are a wide variety. So I could do it remotely, like you and I are speaking over the computer. We could do it in person, like you experienced. Typically, there are two different types. So there's an integrative type, which is amazing for like during the day. You just want a kind of a quick but yet a powerful reset, right, of the nervous system. So that's about 25 minutes. The other one, like you had done, is about 60 minutes or longer, where it's more meditative. So you get a lot deeper into that feeling and that sensation. So a variety, depending on what you need.
That's great. The first time I experienced breath work with you, I had a deep feeling of release of stress. This was in December. So
Right. Yeah.
height of really stressful season typically for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The second time I experienced it, I actually got so relaxed that I think I fell asleep.
I think you did.
I think I did, and I woke up and I wasn't in a deep sleep, like, I don't think I was snoring.
Yeah,
I
nope.
I was there, but it was so you put me in such a state of relaxation
Mm.
that, that was my experience the second time, so it's really neat to see how what you do translates in our body physically.
Yes, that's the beauty of it. Being able to witness also the breather to go not just deeper with one session, but as it progresses, because what you're doing in that, and probably why you felt the shift was you created a bit of safety. So, like you said, the unknown, it's like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, right? When you go to your first session. But then the second time, the third, and the fourth, you start to become more safe with the experience, safe with the facilitator, but then also safe within your body. So that's how you can get those different, not really reactions, but just different experiences because it's all about feeling safe from within.
What was interesting was that first time, I had no idea I was carrying around all that weight of stress. I had no idea that that's what it physically feels like to have stress weighing you down. And the next day, when I woke up, I felt lighter. I felt like I had physically released something really heavy. So that was a neat experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah. So you explain that you're trauma informed. I think
Yes.
that's important for people who are looking to maybe a different modality to deal with that.
Mhm.
So with that being said, is somebody who's had a traumatic experience a good fit for you? Or if, what is a good
Yeah.
fit for you client wise?
Right. So, especially from the pandemic, we have all experienced some sort of trauma, so to speak, right? And I don't like to use the word little or big because to me, trauma is trauma. So, really, there isn't necessarily an ideal client when it comes to trauma. Being trauma informed really is just I can observe where you're at based upon how you show up, based upon what your body looks like as you breathe, based upon the resistance that I can see. And there's also, words matter, right? So that's a large piece as well. Um, so I create the safety. I'm aware of the space with others, and I'm also aware of you individually. So that's huge when it comes to being trauma informed. From an ideal perspective client, I would say probably, obviously it's what I know best, which would be veterans from working at the VA, right? I definitely have a heart for that and have kind of dug in deep over the last couple of years with that particular client. I also really appreciate the clients that have had a traumatic event or some sort of trauma and start from what they call the top up, right? So our logical headspace. And typically that's cognitive behavioral therapy or DBT, which is another type of therapy. You're doing a lot of talking typically, but our body holds on to that as you've experienced. And so that would also be a really ideal client, someone who maybe has gone through that type of talk therapy and either wants a little bit more deeper transformation or maybe just wants to let go of what they still know is there. Talk therapy is working, but we're not quite feeling like we're ready where we want to be. So that's also an ideal client for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. What's important for people to know before they even get started with breath work?
Yeah. The biggest piece to this is we talked about safety, of course, right? So knowing that there's a container, literally, like this is considered a container. So there's safety for you, safety for me, and then we work together to kind of deepen that safety. You are always, as the breather, the one that's in control of what happens. So I guide you through music, I guide you through breath patterns, and I just guide you kind of energetically. But your depth and your pace are based upon how you feel with your nervous system, which I really feel is important. It gives people that sense of, okay, if things get a little hectic or wild, like I'm always in control. Especially when there's breathing patterns that feel a little uncomfortable initially as you get started with our bodies. And that's common, right? Because half the time we don't even realize how we're breathing. And so once we breathe deeper or to a different pattern, it can feel really uncomfortable. So knowing that you're always in control of that. And that's called the window of tolerance. So what can you tolerate? How can we stay safe in that aspect? And then as we grow, maybe we can expand upon that and really improve what's called neuroplasticity, which is just that flexibility of our nervous system. So there is that long-term goal to all of this.
Great.
Yeah.
So, and I understand, and I've heard you say before that this is like a one-time session can be helpful, but you
Mhm.
see the most benefit when people do a
Yeah,
series of services with you, just like therapy. Just you
exactly.
can go once and it can be therapeutic and you can feel good when you're going. But the most beneficial result is when those, that time compounds over time. So I'm understanding that that's the same with breath work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say at least probably 4 to 6 sessions, to get your nervous system into that state of feeling comfortable so that you can kind of expand upon that. But yeah, 1 is great. You're definitely gonna feel relaxed. But to get to that safety piece and really dig deeper into it, I would definitely suggest probably 4 to 6. Not necessarily 60 minutes. You can still do the 30-minute one. It's just allowing your nervous system to kind of be accustomed to what's going on from the inside out.
That's helpful. So
Yeah.
how does somebody get started working with you?
Yeah. So basically, my information is thislittlelightbreathwork.com is the website. On there is social media. They can email me, they can call, whatever works best. We can do individual, customize, or group settings, like I said.
Great. I'll add your website to the
Awesome.
description of the video,
Yeah,
and people can go to your website and get connected with you there.
that would be amazing.
All right, Amy, thank you for sharing. This is such an incredible entrepreneur story because you took something that was so devastating that happened to you, a period of time, really, over and over, you experienced this, and you turned it into transformation for other people. I love those stories. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey, but it's all worth it in the end. So thank you so much for having me on this platform and yeah, just being able to share the experience.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to connect with you.
You too. Thanks.